Hey folks, welcome back to Stoic Quotes 365. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt that the more you chase someone, the more they seem to pull away? It's frustrating, isn't it? You give your time, your energy, your attention, thinking it will make them see your value. But instead of drawing them closer, it often has the opposite effect. They distance themselves, leaving you questioning what went wrong. Here's the truth. Chasing rarely works. In fact, it often backfires. Why? Because chasing shifts the balance of power. It sends the message that you need them more than they need you, tipping the dynamic in their favor. Folks, the Stoics understood this principle well. They believed in controlling what you can and letting go of what you can't. And this includes the actions and emotions of others. Let's face it, we've all been conditioned to think that pursuing someone relentlessly is the way to win their affection. Romantic movies, social norms, even some misguided advice tells us to try harder. But Stoicism offers a radically different approach, one rooted in understanding, self-mastery, and patience. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it with intention and wisdom. Think about this. What if the very act of chasing is what's pushing them away? When you chase, you're operating from a place of lack. You're saying, "I need you to complete me," or "Your validation defines my worth." And folks, nothing is less attractive than neediness. What truly draws people in isn't the chase. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows their value, someone who doesn't need to prove it. Now, here's where things get interesting. What if, instead of chasing, you focused on creating attraction through your actions, your presence, and your mindset? What if you became the person they couldn't help but notice? That's the power of Stoic principles in relationships. By mastering your emotions and focusing on your own growth, you shift the dynamic entirely. You go from being the pursuer to being the prize. In today's video, we're diving deep into this concept. We'll explore why chasing rarely works and uncover the hidden truths about attraction. We'll break down the difference between logical attraction and emotional connection, and why one is far more powerful than the other. We'll also discuss the two phases of attraction, the importance of creating emotional desire, and how to give space in a way that makes them miss you. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap to becoming the person they can't resist. Before we dive in, let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation where chasing didn't lead to the results you wanted? How did it make you feel? Drop a quick, "I'm ready to stop chasing" in the comments if you're excited to learn a new approach. And if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Here at Stoic Relationships, we're all about uncovering the timeless wisdom of Stoicism to help you navigate life and relationships with clarity and confidence. All right, folks, let's get started. Number 1. Why chasing rarely works, the hidden truth. Hey folks, let's start by addressing a question many of us have asked ourselves at some point. Why does chasing rarely work? On the surface, chasing might seem like the natural thing to do. After all, when you want something or someone, you go after it, right? But here's the hidden truth. Chasing often pushes people away rather than drawing them closer. Let's break it down. When you chase, you're operating from a position of lack. You're essentially saying, "I need you to complete me," or "Your attention validates my worth." This mindset creates an imbalance. The more energy you invest in chasing, the more the other person feels like they're in control. And folks, nothing repels someone faster than the feeling that they're being pursued too aggressively. Here's where Stoicism comes into play. One of the foundational principles of Stoicism is focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. When you chase, you're trying to control something or someone that's outside your sphere of influence. Epictetus reminds us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Chasing doesn't just fail. It compromises your freedom and peace of mind. Think about this. Have you ever chased someone's attention only to feel more anxious and frustrated when they didn't respond the way you hoped? That's because chasing creates a cycle of dependency. Your happiness starts to hinge on their actions or reactions. Instead of feeling empowered, you feel drained, and they feel the weight of your neediness. Folks, this isn't a dynamic that leads to connection. It's one that leads to distance. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're texting someone, trying to start a conversation. You send one message, then another, and maybe even a third when they don't respond right away. What's happening here? The more you chase their attention, the more they feel overwhelmed or uninterested. Your efforts, however well-intentioned, end up creating pressure. And pressure rarely fosters attraction. So, what's the alternative? Instead of chasing, focus on attracting. Attraction isn't about forcing someone to notice you. It's about becoming someone they can't help but notice. This shift begins with mindset. Instead of asking, how can I get them to like me? Ask, how can I show up as the best version of myself? When you prioritize your growth, your peace, and your confidence, you naturally become more magnetic. Folks, that's the secret. Attraction isn't about chasing, it's about being. Let's take a step further into the psychology of why chasing doesn't work. People are wired to value what feels rare or unique. When you chase, you make yourself too available, too predictable. But when you focus on yourself, you create intrigue. You send the message, I value myself enough to not chase anyone. And that self-respect is what draws people in. It's counterintuitive but incredibly effective. Now, how can you apply this in your own life? Start by pausing the next time you feel the urge to chase. Instead of texting them first, take a step back. Ask yourself, what's driving this urge? Am I acting out of fear of losing them or confidence in myself? If it's fear, redirect your energy towards something that builds your confidence. Whether it's working on a passion project, hitting the gym, or spending time with supportive friends. Here's another tip. Embrace the power of silence. When you stop chasing, you give the other person space to notice your absence. And folks, silence can be far more powerful than words. It creates a vacuum that draws attention. They start to wonder about you, to miss your presence. And that's when the dynamic shifts. Let me ask you this. Have you ever stopped chasing someone and noticed a change in how they responded? How did it feel to reclaim your energy and focus on yourself instead? Drop a quick, I choose attraction over chasing in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway for this section. Chasing rarely works because it shifts the dynamic in the wrong direction. It creates pressure, diminishes your self-worth, and puts others in the driver's seat of your emotions. The alternative? Stop chasing and start becoming. When you focus on your growth and confidence, you don't have to chase. They'll come to you. And hey, stay tuned. This video has so much more valuable content, and you won't want to miss it. Number 2. Logical attraction versus emotional connection, what truly matters. Hey folks, let's dig deeper into something that many people overlook. The difference between logical attraction and emotional connection. At first glance, they might seem similar, but they operate on completely different levels. And when it comes to building something meaningful, one of these is far more powerful than the other. Let's start with logical attraction. This is the kind of attraction that's based on surface-level qualities, looks, achievements, social status, or even shared interests. It's the checklist approach. They're successful, attractive, and fun, so why wouldn't I be drawn to them? Logical attraction is important, sure, but it's also fleeting. It's like a spark that catches your attention, but doesn't have enough fuel to sustain a flame. Now let's contrast that with emotional connection. This is where the real magic happens. Emotional connection isn't about what someone has. It's about how they make you feel. It's the bond you create when someone understands you, values you, and resonates with your emotions. Folks, this is what builds depth in a relationship. It's not just a spark, it's the steady warmth that keeps the fire alive. Here's the hidden truth. People might initially notice you because of logical attraction, but they stay because of emotional connection. Why? Because logical attraction appeals to the mind, while emotional connection speaks to the heart. And folks, it's the heart that drives meaningful relationships. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who seemed perfect on paper but didn't leave a lasting impression? That's because logical attraction alone isn't enough. Without emotional connection, there's no foundation to build on. On the flip side, you've probably had moments where someone truly understood you, when you felt seen, heard, and valued. That's emotional connection, and it's irreplaceable. So, how does this relate to chasing? When you chase someone, you're often relying on logical attraction to grab their attention. You're trying to showcase your best qualities, your success, your looks, your wit. But here's the thing. Logical attraction alone won't create the connection you're looking for. In fact, the harder you chase, the more you might push them away emotionally. Why? Because chasing disrupts the natural flow of connection. It feels forced, and emotional connection thrives on authenticity. Let's bring this back to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This wisdom applies perfectly here. Instead of trying to prove your worth through external qualities, focus on embodying the qualities that foster emotional connection, authenticity, empathy, and presence. Here's an example. Imagine you're on a first date and you spend the entire time talking about your accomplishments, trying to impress the other person. Sure, they might admire your success, but will they feel connected to you? Probably not. Now imagine a different scenario. Instead of showcasing your achievements, you ask them about their passions. Listen attentively and share your genuine thoughts. In this case, you're building a bridge of emotional connection, not just ticking boxes of logical attraction. So, how can you create emotional connection in your own life? Start by being present. Put down your phone, look people in the eye, and truly listen. Emotional connection isn't about grand gestures. It's about the small moments where someone feels valued and understood. Next, embrace vulnerability. Share your thoughts, your feelings, your imperfections. Folks, perfection might attract admiration, but vulnerability creates connection. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt a genuine emotional connection with someone? What made it stand out? Drop a quick connection over attraction in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway for this section. Logical attraction gets people through the door, but emotional connection is what keeps them in the room. It's the difference between catching someone's eye and capturing their heart. By focusing on creating meaningful emotional connections, you're not just attracting attention, you're building relationships that matter. And hey, stay tuned. This video still has so much more valuable content, and you won't want to miss it. Number 3. The 2 phases of attraction, hunting and chasing. Hey folks, let's dive into an interesting concept that many people confuse. The 2 phases of attraction, hunting and chasing. While they might sound similar, they're fundamentally different in both mindset and outcome. Understanding this distinction can completely transform how you approach relationships and attraction. Let's start with hunting. Hunting is intentional and focused. It's about identifying what you value and going after it with clarity and purpose. Think of it as a strategy rooted in self-awareness. When you're in the hunting phase, you're grounded in your own worth. You're not chasing validation or approval. You're pursuing something that aligns with your values and goals. Now compare that to chasing. Chasing, on the other hand, is reactive and often frantic. It's driven by fear. Fear of missing out, fear of rejection, or fear of being alone. When you're chasing, you're not operating from a place of clarity or confidence. Instead, you're letting someone else dictate the terms. And folks, that's where things start to fall apart. Here's the key difference. Hunting is proactive, while chasing is reactive. Hunting respects boundaries and acknowledges mutual interest. Chasing, however, often disregards those boundaries in an attempt to force connection. And as we've discussed, nothing kills attraction faster than neediness or pressure. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine you're interested in someone. In the hunting phase, you approach them with confidence and curiosity. You initiate a conversation, show genuine interest, and then allow space for them to reciprocate. If they don't respond, you accept it and move on. That's hunting. It's about taking action without clinging to the outcome. Now let's look at the chasing phase. Instead of one thoughtful interaction, you bombard them with messages or constantly try to grab their attention. You might even overanalyze their responses, wondering why they're not reciprocating. Folks, this kind of behavior isn't just exhausting, it's unattractive. Chasing often comes across as desperation, and desperation repels rather than attracts. Here's where Stoicism comes in. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is detachment from outcomes. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." In the context of attraction, this means focusing on what you can control, your actions, your mindset, your energy, and letting go of what you can't, like how someone else responds. When you embrace this principle, you naturally operate in the hunting phase rather than the chasing phase. But let's dig a little deeper. Why do so many of us fall into the trap of chasing? It often stems from insecurity or a lack of self-worth. When you don't feel confident in yourself, you start looking for external validation. Chasing becomes a way to fill that void, even though it rarely works. The solution? Shift your focus inward, build your confidence, cultivate your passions, and remind yourself that you're worthy of love and respect without needing to chase it. Here's a practical way to apply this. The next time you feel the urge to chase, pause and ask yourself, am I hunting or chasing? If you're chasing, take a step back. Redirect your energy towards something that builds your confidence, whether it's pursuing a hobby, spending time with supportive friends, or simply taking a moment to reflect on your worth. Folks, when you stop chasing, you create space for others to approach you on their terms, and that's where genuine connection begins. Let me share another tip. In the hunting phase, it's essential to embrace patience. Attraction isn't a race, it's a journey. When you allow things to unfold naturally, you not only respect the other person's boundaries, but also demonstrate your own emotional maturity. And folks, there's nothing more attractive than someone who knows their worth and doesn't feel the need to force things. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed the difference between hunting and chasing in your own relationships? How did it change the dynamic? Drop a quick, "I choose hunting over chasing" in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway for this section. The two phases of attraction, hunting and chasing, are worlds apart. Hunting is about clarity, confidence, and mutual respect. Chasing, on the other hand, is about desperation and fear. By shifting your focus from chasing to hunting, you not only respect yourself, but also create the space for meaningful connections to flourish. And hey, stay tuned. This video has so much more valuable content, and you won't want to miss it. Number 4, create emotional desire, building cravings. Step by step. Hey folks, let's talk about something that takes attraction to a whole new level. Creating emotional desire. Logical attraction might catch someone's attention, but emotional desire is what keeps them invested. It's what makes them think about you long after you've left the room. And the best part? Emotional desire isn't about manipulation or tricks. It's about building authentic, meaningful connections step by step. Let's start with this. Emotional desire begins with curiosity. People are naturally drawn to what they can't fully understand or predict. When you reveal too much too soon, your thoughts, feelings, or intentions, you remove the element of intrigue. But when you pace yourself, sharing pieces of who you are gradually, you give them something to look forward to. Folks, this isn't about playing games. It's about creating a journey, one layer at a time. Imagine you're reading a great book. Would it be as captivating if all the twists and turns were revealed in the first chapter? Of course not. The same principle applies to emotional desire. To build it, you need to create moments that spark curiosity and leave them wanting more. Share enough to show your depth, but hold back enough to keep the mystery alive. Next, let's talk about how emotional desire is tied to shared experiences. Think back to the most meaningful connections in your life. Chances are, they weren't built on grand gestures. They were built on small, shared moments. A meaningful conversation, a shared laugh, a moment of vulnerability. Folks, these moments create emotional desire because they make the other person feel seen, understood, and valued. But here's the key. It's not just about creating shared experiences. It's about making those experiences emotionally impactful. One way to do this is by being fully present. When you're with someone, put away distractions, listen actively, and respond thoughtfully. These simple actions show that you value the moment, and in turn, they'll value it too. Now, let's dig into the role of unpredictability in building cravings. Emotional desire thrives on anticipation. If your interactions become too predictable, always texting at the same time, always saying the same things, it loses its spark. Instead, mix things up. Surprise them with a thoughtful gesture or an unexpected compliment. Folks, unpredictability isn't about being inconsistent. It's about keeping things fresh and exciting. Another important step in creating emotional desire is showing that you value yourself. People are naturally drawn to those who have a strong sense of self-worth. When you set boundaries, prioritize your own growth, and demonstrate confidence, you send a powerful message: I'm someone worth investing in. And folks, that's irresistible. Let's connect this to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wisdom reminds us that creating emotional desire starts within. It's not about trying to control someone else's feelings. It's about cultivating a mindset of strength, presence, and authenticity that naturally draws people in. Now, here's a practical tip for building emotional desire step by step. Start by creating meaningful conversations. Instead of surface-level small talk, ask questions that spark deeper discussions. What are their passions? Their dreams? Their fears? When you show genuine interest, you're not just connecting, you're creating moments they'll remember. Follow this with moments of shared joy. Whether it's a simple joke or a shared activity, these moments strengthen the bond. And finally, Don't underestimate the power of absence. Giving someone space to miss you is one of the most effective ways to build emotional desire. Folks, absence doesn't mean disappearing, it means creating balance. Show up fully when you're there, but give them room to reflect on the value you bring to their life when you're not. Let me ask you this. What's one meaningful moment you've shared with someone that deepened your connection? Drop a quick "emotional connection matters" in the comments if this resonates with you. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this journey into the secrets of attraction, hit that subscribe button. Join our community of thoughtful individuals who are mastering relationships through Stoic wisdom. Trust me, there's so much more to discover, and you won't want to miss it. Here's the takeaway for this section. Emotional desire isn't about grand gestures or manipulation. It's about creating a series of meaningful, authentic moments that build connection over time. By focusing on presence, curiosity, and self-worth, you create a dynamic that's not only attractive but lasting. And hey, stay tuned! This video has so much more valuable content, and you won't want to miss it. Number 5. The art of giving space. Make them miss you. Hey folks, let's dive into something that's often misunderstood, but incredibly powerful. The art of giving space. It's a concept that can feel counterintuitive at first. When you care about someone, your instinct might be to stay close, to constantly remind them of your presence. But here's the truth. Sometimes, the most impactful thing you can do is step back and let them feel your absence. Let's start by understanding why giving space works. At its core, attraction thrives on balance. Too much closeness can lead to overwhelm, while too much distance can lead to disconnection. When you give someone space, you're creating a moment for them to reflect on what you bring to their life. You're allowing them to experience the value of your presence by temporarily experiencing your absence. And folks, that's how you make someone miss you, not by force, but by contrast. Think about it. Have you ever had a friend or partner who was always available, always there? At first, it might feel comforting, but over time, it can start to feel stifling. On the other hand, when someone gives you the freedom to breathe, it creates a sense of appreciation for the moments you do share. Giving space isn't about playing games. It's about respecting boundaries and fostering a healthier dynamic. Let's connect this to Stoicism. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." In relationships, this means that people need space to truly see your value. If you're always present, they might take you for granted, assuming that your attention is a given. But when you step back, you create an opportunity for them to miss you, to recognize the unique energy you bring into their life. Now, let's talk about how to give space effectively. The key is intention. Giving space isn't about disappearing or ignoring someone. It's about creating balance. Start by observing the dynamic of your relationship. Are you always initiating contact? Always making plans? If so, take a step back. Let them reach out first. This subtle shift can make a big difference. Here's an example. Imagine you've been texting someone frequently and the conversations feel a bit one-sided. Instead of continuing the pattern, pause and let them take the lead. What often happens next is surprising. They'll start to notice the change and wonder why. Folks, this isn't manipulation. It's a natural response to the absence of something they've come to enjoy. But giving space isn't just about communication. It's also about energy. When you're constantly focused on someone else, you might unintentionally neglect your own needs and growth. By stepping back, you're not just giving them room, you're giving yourself room too. Use this time to invest in yourself, pursue your passions, strengthen your friendships, and cultivate your own happiness. When you do this, you're not only making them miss you, you're also becoming more attractive through your independence and confidence. Let's tie this back to emotional connection. Giving space isn't about creating distance. It's about fostering desire. When you step back, you're giving the other person room to reflect on the moments you've shared and the connection you've built. And folks, that reflection is what deepens the bond. Now, let's address a common fear. What if giving space makes them forget about me? The answer lies in the quality of your connection. If the foundation is strong, giving space will only enhance the relationship. If it's not, then forcing closeness won't fix it. Trust that space isn't the enemy. It's a tool for growth. Let me give you a practical tip. When you feel the urge to reach out, pause and redirect your energy. Go for a walk, read a book, or call a friend. By focusing on yourself, you're not only respecting their space, but also reinforcing your own independence. And folks, independence is one of the most attractive qualities you can cultivate. Let me ask you this. Have you ever given someone space and noticed a positive change in the relationship? How did it feel to see them value your presence more? Drop a quick "space creates value" in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway for this section. The art of giving space isn't about creating distance. It's about fostering appreciation. By stepping back with intention, you give others the opportunity to miss you and strengthen the connection you share. And hey, stay tuned. This video still has so much more valuable content, and you won't want to miss it. Number 6. Keep the energy high. How to spark emotional connections. Hey folks, let's talk about something that's at the core of every meaningful relationship. Keeping the energy high and sparking emotional connections. We've all been in interactions that feel flat, where the energy just isn't there. And on the flip side, we've experienced those moments where everything clicks, where the connection feels electric. So, what's the secret to creating and maintaining that spark? Let's break it down. First, let's understand what it means to keep the energy high. This isn't about being hyperactive or over the top. It's about bringing positivity, enthusiasm, and presence into your interactions. When you're genuinely engaged and tuned into the moment, your energy becomes contagious. Folks, energy is a two-way street. The vibe you bring into a conversation often sets the tone for how the other person responds. Now, let's connect this to emotional connections. Emotional connections thrive on shared energy. When you're fully present, listening, responding thoughtfully, and showing genuine interest, you create a dynamic where the other person feels valued and understood. This kind of connection doesn't just happen. It's cultivated through intention and effort. Here's where Stoicism offers some insight. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When it comes to sparking emotional connections, this principle reminds us that the energy we bring is within our control. We can't always control how someone else feels, but we can control how we show up. Let's get practical. One way to keep the energy high is by focusing on active listening. This means more than just hearing someone's words. It means fully understanding their perspective and responding in a way that shows you're engaged. Ask open-ended questions that encourage deeper conversations, like, "What made you passionate about that?" Or "How did that experience shape your perspective?" When someone feels truly heard, it creates a bond that's hard to replicate. Another way to spark emotional connections is by sharing your enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is magnetic. When you talk about something you're passionate about, it draws people in. And folks, it doesn't have to be a big topic. Sometimes the smallest things, when shared with genuine excitement, can create the strongest connections. Maybe it's a book you just finished, a hobby you've picked up, or a funny story from your day. Sharing your joy invites others to share theirs, and that mutual exchange keeps the energy alive. But let's address a common challenge. What if the energy in the conversation starts to dip? It happens to all of us. The key is to recognize it and steer things back on track. One way to do this is by injecting a little humor or lightness into the interaction. Laughter is one of the quickest ways to reconnect and reignite the energy. Another approach is to shift the focus to something the other person is passionate about. When people talk about what they love, their energy naturally rises. Let's also talk about nonverbal cues. Energy isn't just in your words, it's in your tone, your facial expressions, and your body language. A warm smile, an attentive posture, and maintaining eye contact can make a world of difference. These subtle signals show that you're fully engaged. And folks, that kind of attention is rare and powerful. Here's an example to illustrate this. Imagine you're at a gathering and meet someone new. Instead of defaulting to generic small talk, you ask, "What's something you're really excited about these days?" This question not only keeps the energy high, but also creates an opening for a meaningful conversation. As they share, you respond with curiosity and enthusiasm, building a connection that feels natural and memorable. Now, here's a tip for maintaining high energy, even in longer-term relationships. It's easy to let routine and familiarity dampen the spark. The solution? Introduce new experiences, whether it's trying a new activity together, exploring a different topic in conversation, or simply surprising them with a small, thoughtful gesture. Novelty keeps things fresh and exciting. Let me ask you this. What's one way you've sparked an emotional connection with someone recently? Was it through a shared laugh, a deep conversation, or something else? Drop a quick "Energy creates connection" in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway for this section. Keeping the energy high isn't about being someone you're not. It's about being fully present, engaged, and intentional in your interactions. By bringing curiosity, enthusiasm, and warmth into your connections, you create a dynamic that's not just memorable but meaningful. And hey, stay tuned. This video still has so much valuable content, and you won't want to miss it. Number 7. Be the challenge they can't resist. Hey folks, let's wrap up this journey by talking about one of the most powerful ways to transform your relationships and interactions. Being the challenge they can't resist. Now, this doesn't mean playing hard to get or being manipulative. It's about cultivating a sense of value, independence, and mystery that draws people toward you naturally. When you master this, you stop chasing and start attracting effortlessly. Let's start by understanding what makes someone a challenge. At its core, it's about self-respect and boundaries. People are wired to appreciate and pursue what feels unique, rare, and valuable. If you're always available, always saying yes, or always bending over backward to please others, you inadvertently diminish your perceived value. Folks, being a challenge isn't about arrogance. It's about demonstrating that you value yourself enough to maintain your standards and priorities. Here's an important distinction. Being a challenge isn't about creating distance. It's about fostering intrigue. When you live authentically and confidently, people naturally become curious about you. They want to understand what drives you, what excites you, and what makes you tick. This curiosity is the spark that makes you irresistible. Let's connect this to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This wisdom applies perfectly here. Being a challenge means holding yourself to high standards, living in alignment with your values, and not compromising your integrity for the sake of pleasing others. When you embody this principle, you exude an inner strength that's magnetic. Here's an example. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone asks you to do something that goes against your values or priorities. Instead of saying yes out of fear of disappointing them, you politely but firmly decline. You might say something like, "I appreciate you asking, but that's not something I can commit to right now." Folks, this isn't about being difficult. It's about standing firm in your truth. And trust me, people respect that far more than blind agreement. Now, let's talk about how being a challenge relates to attraction. When you're a challenge, you create a sense of pursuit. This doesn't mean playing games or withholding affection. It means being intentional about how you share your time, energy, and attention. For example, instead of constantly texting someone, let them initiate sometimes. When they do, respond thoughtfully, showing that you value quality interactions over quantity. This balance keeps the dynamic engaging and prevents it from feeling one-sided. But being a challenge isn't just about what you withhold, it's about what you offer. When you're pursuing your passions, setting goals, and living a full life, you become someone who inspires others. Folks, nothing is more attractive than someone who's genuinely excited about their own journey. When you're focused on your growth, you naturally draw people toward you because they want to be part of that energy. Here's another practical tip. Embrace a sense of mystery. This doesn't mean being secretive. It means not laying everything out on the table all at once. Share your thoughts, feelings, and experiences gradually, allowing others to get to know you over time. This sense of discovery keeps the connection fresh and exciting. Now, let's address a common misconception. Some people think being a challenge means being aloof or distant. But folks, that couldn't be further from the truth. Being a challenge is about balance. It's about showing genuine interest and care while maintaining your independence and self-worth. It's not about creating barriers. It's about showing that you have a life, values, and priorities that you're not willing to compromise. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how people are more drawn to you when you're focused on yourself and living your best life? How did it change the dynamic of your relationships? Drop a quick "I am the challenge" in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway for this section. Being the challenge they can't resist isn't about games or manipulation. It's about self-respect, independence, and authenticity. When you live in alignment with your values and priorities, you naturally attract the kind of connections that are meaningful and lasting. Hey folks, thank you for spending time with me today and exploring these powerful Stoic principles. Remember, life and relationships flourish when you focus on self-respect, authenticity, and meaningful connections. These tools aren't just ideas, they're pathways to creating the life and relationships you deserve. If you found value in this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and join our community here at Stoic Relationships. Together, we'll continue diving into the timeless wisdom of Stoicism to navigate life with clarity and strength. Until next time, take care, stay grounded, and keep growing. See you in the next video.